everybody, in this video you're learning about type conversion or typecasting in Python. So the agenda of my video will be what is typecasting or type conversion or typecasting, and then we are going to be discussing about types of conversion in Python, that is implicit conversion and explicit conversion. And then we are going to go forward from there and talk about exceptions that we have when we are converting data. And then at last we will talk about how we can check the type of data. So here I've opened up PyCharm with this Python training project. So first let's understand about what is type conversion or typecasting. So type conversion or typecasting simply means converting one data type to another data type. Okay, and we have already discussed about data types in a previous video. If you have not watched that video, please watch that before watching it. So now let's go ahead and talk about explicit and implicit type conversions. So implicit type conversions are done automatically by the Python interpreter itself. So explicit conversions are what we specify explicitly. We say, Python, I want you to convert this data type to the other one, right? So first, let's take a look at implicit type conversion. So here, to do that, I'm just going to declare a num1 variable. Okay, and then I'm going to set it equal to 10. And then we will have another one, num2. I'm going to be setting this to 8.8. There we go. And then we will have this variable called results. We will set that to num1 plus num2, like that. And then we are simply going to print out, so print type. So this is a new function and it is used to get the type of data that we are storing in whatever's passed over here. So we want to get the type of num1. So num1, and let me just duplicate that line. So copy paste, and here we will print the type of num2. That is the second variable. And then here we will print out the type of results. So results. And then at last we will simply print out whatever the value of our results variable is. So results. Okay. So now when we run our program, let's take a look at what the output is going to be. So first we have this. That is a type of num1. So just ignore this class thing. We have not reached that far in Python, but of course we are going to learn about that later. Just take a look at this int. So int is what I've already explained again in that data types video. So we have, so I just wanted to point this thing out about Python. That even though in other languages like Java, for example, we'll have to specify the type of the variable that we are declaring. But that's not the case for Python. So here we have assigned to num1 the value of 10, right? So it automatically takes the type as an integer. Okay, that is why Python is developer friendly. So let's continue. So next up we have float. So that's the type of num2, right? So the type of num2 here, because we have did 8.1, that's a float. So it says it's a float, okay? And then at last, we have printed the type of result. So obviously the value of result here, we have set it to num1 plus num2. And an integer added to a float returns the float itself, okay? So basically what happens is that the Python interpreter checks if it can perform an implicit type conversion. An implicit type conversion simply means that there won't be data. In this case, with a float, there will be no data loss. So the Python interpreter performs that implicit type conversion. And if we compare a float with an integer, then float is the bigger data type. So we got float over here, and now let's take a look at our final result, right? It's 18.1. So we're printing our result here. 18.1. So 10 plus 8.1 results in 18.1. So now I just want to show you one more thing. If this num2 was instead of a float going to be a string like that, then as you can see when I mouse over it, it says expected type int and got string instead. str just stands for string instead. So here now we run our program. As you can see, we have an error. Okay, that is a type error. It says unsupported operand types for plus, int, and string. Right? It's not possible to add an int and string together. So now what I'm going to do is I'm even going to convert this num1 from an int to a string. So let me just wrap that in quotation marks. And now when we run our program, look at what's happening. It says us 108.1. So what Python does here is it performs something called concatenation. That means you append two strings together. So in our case, we're doing it like this. So let me just show you. I'm just going to take this from here, copy, and paste. So let me leave a little bit of space there so that you understand which one. So this first was the value of num1, that is 10, right? That was the normal value. And then from where did this 8.1 come? So this, just separate that here, 10 and 8.1. This 8.1 came from num2. So that's how we got 108.1. Now let me change that back. And I'm even going to make this. There we go. So now I just want to make a point here. That if we are performing an operation with two similar data types, then we will have no problem and we will complete the operation successfully. So this means that the Python interpreter knows what the type of the result is going to be. But if they're not the same data types, in our case we were adding a float with an integer, so that time the Python interpreter looks if it can perform an implicit conversion. Okay? And if it is possible, which in our case it was possible, then it will perform that. And there's something in common between an int and a float, that they're both numbers. And so the Python interpreter will put the result in a common data type. That is going to be float in our case, because a float can even have integer values. But when we were trying to add an integer with a string, it was not possible because they don't have anything in common. So we have to use explicit conversion for that to work. So let me show you right now. So here where we are adding, we are setting result to num1 plus num2. What we're going to do is, this is a new thing to you. We will say float, and then we will pass this in as an argument to that float function. So here what we're doing is we're trying to convert whatever data type is inside of num2. In our case, it's a string, the string value, to a float. So we say float. So now let's go ahead and run this program. And now we get 18.1. Also, if you notice, again, the class of the results is a float because we have converted this to a float over here, and it's a common data type. And 18.1 again is the correct result. So now there is this exception. If you put some other, like for example, some other string, let me just do KJ or something like that, then when we run our program, we're going to get an error. So it says, could not convert string to float. Okay, so this value, KJ, cannot be inside of a float. A float does not support this kind of a value. So you should be really careful while you're trying to explicitly convert two data types. Okay, you should check first if it can really converted it. If it can, you should perform the conversion. And with that, I hope you have understood about typecasting or type conversion in Python. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you guys next time.